Well, folks, it's next morning, Tuesday, after a night thinking or whatever and doing some research this morning on the computer. I'm going to go see about getting a plasma cutter, and it's something I could use a lot anyway, and I believe it'd be a whole lot cheaper to use and use my compressor, air compressor, for the oxygen source, and then and get a 220 volt. And I was thinking about that I was going to need a cord long enough to come all the way out here. Then I got to thinking, well, I got a generator back there that put up 220 volts, so I can utilize it and for my jobs away from my natural power source and stuff. So it's going to be the most economical thing to use. I used on that oxygen bottle, it was 2,200 pounds when I turned it on, and it's down to 15, so I used 500 pounds, or yeah, I suppose it would be, of oxygen, mainly to just do that cutting. And the trouble with the torch is when you got something rusty like this, say, well, I come to find out that on these cuts here, instead of making a straight cut at that weld, I need to do a downward cut on that, just above the frame here, and more or less like this one here, did a downward cut. So what I found out by just cutting straight across there, this part here is still holding that. So basically that was a wasted cut, so I got to come back. So like I say, you learn as you go, but knowing that, I can, save a whole lot more oxygen on doing the final cut and on getting this stuff out of here. But I think overall, like I said, if I do my investment on getting a plasma cutter, something I'm going to be able to keep and use in the future, and that by using my compressed air, my air compressor, I won't have to use the oxygen. And even if I do use the oxygen, it will just use a fraction of the amount. Because what you get into is, so when you get in the rust built up like this, that rust will just glare off on the torch. You can't penetrate that stuff. So that's why it took so much more oxygen and stuff, because it'll just just heat up, but it will not penetrate it. So needless to say, and then I come in the conclusion, see, since these, I was going to put a board, a 2x8 oak in two of them, in here and here, and I was thinking about, and I said, well, for no more what that is holding, and seeing that was going to have to be exposed. Well, you can see I don't want that exposed, so I'm going to go ahead and cut that piece out also. So it'll be two 9-inch, there's 18 inches here, there'll be two 9-inch boards, oak boards in there. So, and that'll make it look really nice. And then down here I'll go ahead and put my 8-inch in here. So I'll have to, it's going to be a lot of work. I'm going to have to, I didn't want to cut this part because it's rounded off down here. This is a lower level than this is. Why they designed that way, I don't have any idea. But I didn't want to mess with this rounded part. So I was going to go ahead, now I have to clean this all off with a grinder and come back through here and then stitch weld this back down. all the way down through there on both sides. I just thought about it, you know, I could go ahead and if I'm going to take this tube out, because that's all that is that tube. If I take that tube out, like I'm going to take that tube out, then I could come all the way down here and cut that out from there. But let's do a measurement of that real quick. Wife planted an apple tree yesterday. She's got some sod, so I was going to take it down to a spot where, down in my ditch there, got a place for it down there, and get her some mulch. But if I go ahead and take that down there, see, that's 1.5 inches. So like I said, I don't know what they're doing, why they didn't go, I suppose the channel they use, I guess. So that's 1.5 inches by 5-inch channel. And so they need to, if I come all the way in there, take this down, that, and I'm going to go with 2-inch stock, and I got, well, I'd have to go down to 1.5 inches there. What would it be if I just go 2-inch? If I go 2-inch, it'll stand up above this here. Would that be a bad thing? It's 1 3/4, so basically 1/4 inch. I don't reckon that would hurt anything. Trying to think how I could do so that my oak board would stick up 1/4 inch and have that all oak from here to there. I don't think it'll hurt anything, and overall I think it'll save some time. Get these stitch welds off of here, take that piece on off. Is that welded up underneath there? It's not. They don't even have these. Must be welded on the top. They're not welded here. The more I'm thinking about it, it would look a whole lot better. This is kind of bent up here. You just go ahead and take that whole piece out with that tube. These are set on 18-inch centers, so although they're pretty thin, that's a pretty good spacing. If you put a 2x thick oak going from this there to there, and being this just a single axle trailer, you ain't gonna get nothing really heavy on there. But my main goal is to be able to, say if you want to do a roll-off dumpster with the big heavy wheels on it that rolls up on there, that's what mashed all these things in, you're not going to have a bit of problem. So I think in the long run, see, I got to cut this all the way down through there to maintain this piece, whereas I can just go ahead and cut these stitch welds. And I'm not sure how, I'm not seeing any weld. There's one. So these are only welded in certain spots there anyway. So that one's welded. That means it's welded on the bottom side. That's not good. Oh, sun right in my eyes. Yep. Yep, welded on the bottom side. Now that's not. There's a weld. Well, this is already loose. So by getting the stitch weld off, I can go ahead and take this cover plate off. Diamond plate, floor plate, or whatever you want to call it, and then that'll expose that weld on the tube itself. So yep. I don't know what kind of welder they used for that. Think about it, wire welder. It don't look like a wire welder weld. It'd be a whole lot more smoother. Thinking about getting some grinding wheels too, cutting wheels. And this stuff is pretty thin. And I did do some of it. I think that's what I need to do. That would eliminate those ugly things. I don't want those exposed. I want all this covered up. So the only thing that's going to be exposed would be my boards, and as far as metal is this. And my boards will come all the way up to that. Yep. I guess the game plan. Put the battery charger on that other one. I'd put my load tester on there, and that one battery that I more or less charged all day is still going good. It was a little over 12 volt, then it maintained around 11 volt with the load on it, so that's normal. The other one I didn't charge very long at all before I shut it off last night. So anyway, it only went to, like, I think it was 10 volts, and then it went to replace. So I got the charger back on it now, and we're going to charge on it a few more hours. And you know, I was more or less convinced that those batteries were bad, other than this one here that finally nursed it back to health. So anyway, I think we're going to see how it turns out. So anyway, let's go drop this sod off, and I'll be back to you here in just a second. GoPro, stop recording.